supervillains get teleported to another world and shock everyone with their godly powers. It is another day in the DC universe, when Harley Quinn and Joker have kidnapped a random bunch of civilians for no reason but mischief. While Harley bores the people out of their heads talking about her dreams to go to another world, Joker loots some money and tells her that they should get out now. Soon, the police arrive at the location to rescue the kidnapped people, but they get caught in the Joker's trap. The hostages have been rigged with bombs that explode just as the police find them. A huge explosion shocks the citizens, causing panic on the road. Thrilled by this, Joker plays the piano while driving his car when suddenly, cops start chasing them, and some police cars block their way. On Joker's cue, Harley blows them up with her rocket launcher, and then Joker slashes the bag of money while jumping over the fiery mess. As $100 bills start raining down from his bag, greedy people flood the roads in an attempt to fill their pockets. Joker keeps on playing his piano throughout, and soon, the police cars catch up to him. He takes a sharp turn, and the police follow, but Harley hits some bombs towards them, causing the entire fleet to blow up. Joker starts monologuing about changing the world, but then suddenly, Harley pulls on the emergency brake, saying that they should get a drink before they do that. She enters the bar and throws out a bunch of cash, but as she looks at a bunch of rough-looking thugs placed out evenly, she begins to grow suspicious. She approaches the bartender and tells him that she knows their secret, and he immediately tries to pull out a gun. Harley smashes his head with a bottle and then screams at the Joker not to come inside. The other men in the bar attack her, but Harley easily disarms one of them, while the others shoot at her. Outside the bar, the homeless man also begins shooting at the Joker, who just rams his car into him. He creates a hole in the wall, giving Harley a chance to get out. But before she can reach the car, Joker comes under fire from some military trucks and has to back away. The trucks chase him far away from the location, and by the time Harley comes out of the bar after dealing with all the thugs, she loses contact with him. As she is running on the roof of a building, someone suddenly throws a knife at her. The girl jumps down and draws out her sword, and Harley draws out her bat in response. They begin exchanging blows, and Harley has fun fighting with the girl, but her fun is cut short when the samurai girl manages to disarm her. Harley is nervous now, and she tries to back away while distracting the girl with her words. She finds an opening and tries to run away, but the samurai girl is relentless in her chase. Harley falls to the ground and throws an empty bucket at her, but the girl easily parries that. Harley keeps throwing things at her as she climbs up and gets her hand on a steel pipe. The second round of her battle with the samurai girl begins, but Harley is no match for her skills and is soon brought to her knees. She throws the pipe at the girl to prevent her from dealing the final blow, and then gets really close to her so that she can't use her sword properly. However, this tactic doesn't work for long, and the samurai girl pushes her back before ultimately cornering Harley and then knocking her out with a hit to her gut. Harley is arrested and put in a high-security prison. In another part of the city, the organization called Argus, led by Amanda Waller, is conducting an experiment that may change the world forever. Using a restrained person as the source of energy, they begin firing up their equipment setup. They succeed in creating a portal of sorts, but it is highly unstable, and the head scientist tells Amanda that the power output is lower than what they expected, so the portal won't last. Amanda simply tells them to increase the power output, even if they have to put extra stress on the person acting as the source. The scientists have no choice but to follow her command, and they extract a terrifying amount of power from the restrained woman, causing her to wriggle in pain. The portal starts growing in size rapidly, and it starts pulling things into it. One piece of debris rotates around it rapidly and then flies right past Amanda, dealing her a nasty cut on the head, but she tells her scientists to continue. The rough portal suddenly implodes, giving way to a perfect and stable portal that will lead them to another world. Half a year later, Amanda walks to a high-security prison managed by Argus that keeps various superhuman villains captive. The director of the prison tries convincing her to not free some of the worst superhumans on Earth because they are sure to create great chaos wherever they go. However, Amanda tells him to shut up because she needs crazy people like them to change the world. The director reluctantly leads her to Harley's cell, where Amanda shuts down her TV first and then sends the soldiers inside to drag her out. Amanda tells her that she needs to do a job for her, but Harley replies that she is not her mom. Anyway, she can't refuse when guns are pointed at her, and she agrees to come out of her cozy cell. On the way out, the director suddenly grabs her, asking her to thank him for making her stay here comfortable. Harley thanks him with the good old Ballbuster 3000, and then the soldiers grab her while Amanda knocks her out with a taser. Immediately after that, she moves to the director and tells him to take her to the next cell because she needs more people for the job. A few hours later, Harley finally wakes up inside a helicarrier, and the first thing she sees is the supervillain marksman Deadshot sitting right next to her, and she is appalled by that. Even Deadshot says that he didn't want to be so close to a psycho woman, but another prisoner with them interrupts him, saying that it is rude to talk to a lady like that. Neither Harley nor Deadshot know this guy, and he asks if they don't watch movies because he is a popular actor. Next to the actor is a guy in a straitjacket with a paper bag over his face. Harley asks him if he is hiding his face because he is ugly, and the man says that he is only doing it because showing his face will hinder his noble mission to bring peace. Deadshot doesn't really think that the rest of them are capable of a noble mission, and just then, an agent comes in. He tells everyone that Masthead is right, and they are going on a very noble mission. He shows them a screen, through which Amanda tells them the details of their task. They have to establish a research base and guard it while their scientists research and extract resources from a certain region. She tells them that the 5 prisoners will be under the command of her agent, and if they do not obey every word she says, she will detonate the bomb she has planted in their necks. Everyone is mortified to hear this, and then Amanda tells them that if they try escaping far away from the range of her signal, the bombs are programmed to explode within 72 hours, so they have no choice but to be her obedient dogs. Everyone is furious about that, and Deadshot even swears to kill her when he gets back, but Amanda knows that they have no way to retaliate against her. The message cuts off with that, and then the agent begins uncuffing Harley, saying that all their gear is in the back of the ship. Suddenly, the actor asks him where is the 5th prisoner that Amanda mentioned, and before the agent can point out what is happening, the ship suddenly rattles. The agent goes to the cockpit to see what is up and finds that the pilot and the co-pilot are already dead. He tries to get the ship under control and somehow manages to make it land in one piece, but dies in the process. Nearby, a group of knights are fighting giant monsters. Inside the plane, Harley finds that she is free from her seat, and she goes outside to find that the agent is dead. She uses a knife to cut her shackles, and then looks outside to find a mesmerizing scenery. She doesn't see that there is no ground in front of her and almost falls as she tries to walk ahead, but luckily, Deadshot saves her. Inside, the remaining 2 people have also freed themselves. They go outside from the other side and find a giant dragon flying over them. Everyone is surprised, but then they see the giant floating islands and the knights fighting huge monsters in front of them, which leaves them entirely speechless. They wonder which movie is being shot here when suddenly, a bunch of pig monsters surround them. The actor says that they just came here by mistake and asks to see the director or the producer, but one of the pigs suddenly attacks him, and the blood from his spear smears Harley's face. Deadshot deduces that this is not a movie shooting, and on hearing those words, Harley snaps, saying that this means they are free to do whatever they want. Just then, the door of the plane is ripped open by the 5th prisoner, King Shark, who has the powers of a shark and the ick of one too. King Shark rushes ahead, chomping down on the pig monsters, and then Harley joins the fun too, beating them with a spear and her fancy martial arts moves. The masked man, who is actually the vigilante called Peacemaker, also joins the fight, grabbing the axe the pigs throw at him and then using it against them. After losing the axe, he beats them with his bare fists, saying that he will bring peace at all costs. The unpopular actor, who is the supervillain called Clayface, uses his powers to manipulate the ground to stall the monsters chasing him. In the meantime, Deadshot has found his guns and ammo inside the plane, and he uses them to take down pig monsters with 1 bullet each. He figures out that the way to solve this situation quickly is to defeat the boss, and Peacemaker points towards the big and ugly pig in the distance, saying that he is bound to be the villain. Deadshot takes aim at him, but another monster blocks his way. So he uses the blades of the ship as a jumping ramp and shoots the boss monster in the head, killing him. The pigs run away with that, but then suddenly the human knights arrive there. They seem to be wary of the intruders, and the commander pulls out his sword, but Deadshot shoots it out of his hands. He tries telling him that they are not enemies, but the commander just uses magic to call the sword back to his hand. Seeing this, Clayface finally realizes that they are in another world, and he approaches the knights, telling them that they are the heroes summoned from another world to protect this one. On hearing this, Deadshot scoffs, asking if this was a noble mission for peace. Peacemaker takes offense to this because no one mocks his missions and peace, and he starts quarreling with Deadshot. They keep fighting even after they are thrown into prison. Meanwhile, in the kingdom, the queen goes to her flying castle by passing through the villages where the public is poor and starving. Once she reaches her courtroom, the knights show her and the other courtiers the recording of their battle against the pig monsters. The ministers are happy with their victory, and they call for a celebration, and the commander of the knights asks how they can think about celebrating when their people are starving. The minister is not happy about him speaking up, but then the queen tells everyone to shut up. She doesn't care about such small skirmishes, and she tells the knight commander to create a better strategy for the next battle. On that note, the commander asks her what to do about the people from the other world. He claims that they can be really helpful to them in the battle, but the proud queen doesn't want their help. She tells the knight commander to ignore them, asking if the hero who once saved their kingdom has fallen so low that he needs help from foreigners to do his duty. The queen refuses to listen to even the words of her daughter Fiona, who asks her to trust the people from the other world. Fiona is upset by her mother's words, but not as upset as she is about the pathetic state her people are in. Seeing kids fight for a single piece of moldy bread, she refuses to eat the luxurious food given to her. Suddenly, the knight commander comes to her room as per her order, and Fiona asks him for a favor. She wants to see Harley and her group because she also believes that they have the potential to help them. That is why she requests that the commander take her there so that she can negotiate with them. Meanwhile, in the prison, Harley is having sweet dreams about the Joker coming to rescue her from the prison, but when she opens her eyes, she realizes that she is stuck in this stinky prison in another world. Deadshot is also frustrated by this, but Clayface is rather calm. He thinks that even though they helped the humans win the war, they are being treated as prisoners rather than heroes. This only means that they are not welcome in these parts, which is a common Isekai'd theme. He wonders how he can change the storyline, but Peacemaker tells everyone that rather than worrying about how they are treated, they should worry about getting back to the ship. He says that 12 hours have passed since their helicopter crashed here, and if they do not return to it within 60 hours, the bombs in their necks will explode. Everyone panics upon hearing this, and they wonder what they can do to escape. Clayface suddenly gets an idea and walks up to the bars. Deadshot tells him that it is useless to try to break them because even King Shark couldn't do so. However, Clayface just turns into mud and slips through the bars with ease. He tells everyone that he is the main character of the story and they are extras, so he won't really mind them getting sacrificed so that he can become stronger. This irritates everyone, so Harley yells that there is a prison break, and the guards immediately arrive there. Peacemaker tries to hold back Clayface, and then the guards put magic handcuffs on his arms that immediately seal his powers. Just then, the guards open the door to the cell and tell everyone to get out because it is time for breakfast. The breakfast is literally sewer water and rotten vegetables, and on top of that, Clayface can't stop cursing Harley and others for getting in the way of his escape. Just then, some ogres come there and tell them to get lost because it is their seat. The leader of the ogres says that he doesn't want the smell of weak humans to rub on his seat, but there is a language barrier between them, and no one can understand what he exactly means. Deadshot can guess that it has something to do with the prison hierarchy, and he decides to show the ogre who is the boss. However, Clayface thinks that violence is not the solution. He gets up and tries to communicate with the ogre, claiming that he can understand him just by his expressions because he is a master actor. He tries to butter up the ogre, smiling at him and bitching about the guards. However, the ogre thinks that the puny human is mocking him by smiling in his face, so he just punches him away. The ogres start laughing, but then Harley decides that she has had enough. She finishes her soup, makes a terrible face, and then slides the empty bowl to the ogre boss. He gets furious, and then suddenly, the ogre attacks Harley, but Peacemaker blocks his punch, and then Harley throws her bowl at his face. The ogre boss grabs Harley's collar as he gets up. Using this chance, Harley hits him down, and by the time the guards arrive, Harley, Deadshot, and Peacemaker are giving a victory pose over the defeated ogres. The guard immediately calls them back up and uses a magic spell to pin them to the ground. They are all thrown in the disciplinary cell. Deadshot slaps Clayface awake while Peacemaker tries breaking the prison gate, but it is too tough for him. Just then, they hear another prisoner's voice, who asks them if they come from Earth too. Harley turns around and asks the man to introduce himself first, and he says that he is Rick Flag, an agent of Argus. As he takes a good look at their faces, Rick recognizes all the supervillains. He realizes that Amanda sent backup for their team, and Harley gets confused about his constant rambling. Rick decides to tell everyone that they are not the first group sent by Amanda to this world. Before them, he led another group to make the first contact. Their mission was to see if they could find a source of natural resources and monopolize them, but it went awfully wrong, and he was detained. He learns that there is too much the Suicide Squad has not been told about, but at least they know about the bomb in their necks. Peacemaker says that they have less than 60 hours before the bombs explode and asks Rick how they can reset the timer. Rick is surprised to hear about the time limit, but then he realizes that Amanda may have taken some extra measures to send the supervillains here. He tells the Suicide Squad that they have the same goals, so he will help them get back to the gate to their world. He can then return to his world and they will get the signal to reset their bomb counters. Harley and Deadshot don't really trust him, but then they have bigger issues to deal with as King Shark wakes up. He is hungry, and he begins walking towards the supervillains to eat them. They are terrified, but Rick quickly gets an idea and tells King Shark that they are also hungry, and food is on the other side of the gate. Hearing this, King Shark begins pushing open the gate with all his might. Motivated by Harley's cheering, King Shark lunges at the cell gate and breaks it open. Harley uses this chance to pick up the staff. Unaware of this change, she hits the guard with all her strength, and he gets embedded in the roof. Anyway, Rick thinks that this is their chance to escape without creating any more disturbance. Clayface gets a key from the knocked-out guard to unlock his cuffs. He begins rallying the prisoners with a dramatic speech, but Peacemaker gets the jump on him and urges everyone to go out and wreak havoc. However, what motivates the prisoners the most is seeing King Shark devour the guard hole, and the guards arrive there just then. They try to put down the supervillains using their magic again, but this time, Harley and others are more powerful than before. They start running, and Deadshot shoots all the guards with stones, while Peacemaker throws everyone in his way towards King Shark, who quickly gobbles them up. They keep causing destruction as they beat down the guards. Soon, they free everyone and take over the entire prison. Soon, the Knight Commander reaches the prison on Fiona's request, and he is mortified to see that the prison has fallen and the criminals are running it now. Harley notices it too, and she tells everyone that they have company. The Knight Commander, Cecil, arrives at the gate of the prison when a warning shot from Deadshot prevents him from stepping inside. The Suicide Squad goes out to greet him, and Clayface recognizes that this is the same knight who arrested them earlier. Harley thinks that he looks less like a knight and more like a frustrated insurance salesman, and she and Deadshot start making fun of him. Cecil is furious at this, so he throws his magic sword at her, but King Shark comes in between and swallows his sword whole. Cecil uses his magic and calls his sword back, and the sword cuts open King Shark's stomach as it goes back to his hands. However, the wound on King Shark's stomach is instantly healed through magic. Deadshot and others are ready to fight now, but then suddenly, Rick runs there, telling everyone to stop. He says that if they pick a fight with the Knights, they will make the entire country their enemy, and then they won't have the chance to safely return to the gate to reset their bomb timers. That is why he decides to talk to Cecil using whatever fragments of this world's language he has picked up while rotting in prison. However, the crude prison language doesn't sit well with the Knight Commander, who thinks that Rick is trying to insult him. He draws out his sword to finish him, but then the words of Fiona echo in his mind, and he thinks that he must fulfill her wishes and bring these people to her alive. He puts his sword back and tells everyone to follow him, and Rick thanks him, unknowingly calling him chicken shit. Anyway, they are brought to the royal palace as prisoners. The sight of the grand palace is enough to mesmerize them, but the ministers are not really pleased to see a bunch of criminals there. Soon, the queen and the princess arrive there, and everyone bows to her. The princess seems oddly interested in Harley, but tries not to look her in the eye. Harley and Deadshot debate whether she is a real queen or just the king's wife. The queen is curious about what they are saying, so she uses her magic to allow them to understand each other. Everyone is amazed at this, and the queen tells them to stop wasting her time and quickly tell her what they want to say. Rick respectfully approaches the queen and says that he wants to make an offer to her that will prove greatly beneficial to her, and in exchange, all they want is the right to move freely. The ministers remind him that he is still a prisoner, and thus he has no right to make an offer. However, Rick says that he has important information for the queen that can help them win the war. He says that the reason the kingdom is losing the war against the Empire is because the Empire replaced all its top officers, and that has made their army more efficient. The queen says that she already knows this, But then Rick says that the officers in the army are humans from their world. The Queen and her ministers ask him to elaborate, but before Rick can say anything, Harley intervenes. She realizes that the humans on the Empire's side were part of the group that Rick led here. Deadshot and Clayface also add on to that, saying that Rick failed to keep them under control and they went to the Empire's side. The Queen is angry now, and she declares that the troubles they are facing are because of Rick's incompetence. Her soldiers draw their swords on them, but then Peacemaker tells the Queen that they are willing to atone for their mistakes by fighting on any battlefield she wants and bringing peace. Deadshot curses him and asks him to at least consult with the rest of them first, but the Queen has already taken him for his word. She uses her magic to tie down Rick and orders her soldiers to take him away. She then tells the Suicide Squad that if they fail to do what Peacemaker just promised, Rick will lose his head. Cecil tries convincing the Queen that it is not proper to let outsiders fight their war, but the Queen tells him to be silent because he was the one who proposed this idea yesterday. Rick is dragged away from the court, but he keeps yelling at the Suicide Squad to give it their all, because if he dies, they will never make it to the gate and lose their heads too. Harley isn't really thinking so far, and she thinks that they need to get some food first, and then they will need their weapons and gear back. The Queen entertains their requests, and they are given their costumes and weapons, as well as some food. With that, they are ready to roll and soon get taken to a battlefield, where the kingdom's soldiers are trying to seize a fortress under the control of the Empire. Clayface and Peacemaker suggest that they go ahead and help them out, but Deadshot says that they shouldn't because earlier Cecil told them to stay out of their fight. He says that they should just let them die, but Clayface believes that if they save them, they may be seen in a better light. However, both of them are confused about how the beastmen in the Empire's army were trained to fight so ruthlessly without worrying about their safety. Harley can clearly say from her experience as a psychiatrist that they are not trained but brainwashed. All the wolves are already ragged and tattered, yet they do not hesitate to give their lives. On hearing about the brainwashing and connecting it with the fact that the first group of people brought here must be wanted criminals like them, Deadshot guesses the identity of the enemy commander. He tells everyone to follow him because the enemy commander is one of his buddies from jail, and he will surely hear him out. They reach the fortress, but there is no way to get inside it. Clayface uses his power to turn the wall into clay and opens up a door, and Deadshot tells him that he can just turn the whole fortress upside down in this case. Clayface tells him that this is not his true power, and the wall lacks moisture for him to be able to control it well. He says that his real power was limited to only transforming his body into clay, and he got this ability to control other things after coming to this world. He believes that some kind of magic is at work here, and Harley suddenly recalls the time she hit the guard for a home run. Anyway, they sneak into the fortress and come across the wolf guards. Harley deals with one of the remaining wolves, while King Shark swallows them whole with Clayface watching his back. In this fashion, they reach the top of the tower, where the commander of the Empire's forces is watching over the battlefield. He is about to attack the intruders when Deadshot tells him that he is not here to fight, but just to talk as friends. The commander turns back in shock upon hearing his voice, and Harley asks him who this guy is. Deadshot says that he is Ratcatcher, a fellow prisoner whom he allegedly saved from getting bullied quite often. He begins reciting the tales of how he helped Rat, but the more he speaks, the more it becomes clear that he was the one mentally harassing the poor man. Rat is furious at him now, and he commands his wolf soldiers to devour the intruders whole. Deadshot asks him what the hell is wrong with him and how he can control any other creatures beyond rats, when suddenly the wolves attack him. He shoots them down immediately, and the rest of the Suicide Squad joins in on the action as well. Everyone is confused about how to put an end to things when, suddenly, Clayface comes up with an idea. He tells Deadshot to shoot at the water containers because then he will be able to use his new powers more effectively. Deadshot obliges and shoots the overhead water tanks, and the water comes pouring out. Clayface uses his power to create huge holes on the floor that send all the wolves falling. Rat is defenseless now, and Peacemaker shoots him in the head, but at the last moment, his bullet is deflected. The masked samurai saved Rat, and she grabbed him and jumped down the building. However, they have another problem on their hands now, as the fortress suddenly collapses because Clayface went a bit overboard while using his powers earlier. Cecil comes to confront the Suicide Squad and asks how dare they interfere in the battle when he told them not to. Deadshot told him that they just saved them all, and then Cecil asks how dare they destroy the fortress they plan to take back. Deadshot says that they have got it back in any case, and it just needs a bit of repair and cleaning. The Suicide Squad begins walking away with that, and the Queen and her nobles watch this entire thing live. Despite this victory, the Suicide Squad is taken back to the prison, where Rick starts quarreling with Deadshot for not doing their job properly. Harley wakes up from another dream about the Joker, where they were dealing with some intruders in their base who were interrupting their romantic time. She is not happy to learn that something has changed about their situation. Peacemaker tells everyone that now they have only 12 hours before their bombs go off, and they must find some way out before that happens. Just then, Princess Fiona comes there, and Clayface immediately starts flirting with her. Deadshot just shoves him to the side and asks the princess when they are going to be let out of the prison. She apologizes because she doesn't know and tries convincing them that they will be treated nicely because of their contribution to the latest victory. However, she herself is not convinced by her words. She steals a glance at Harley, who catches her and asks what she wants. The princess shies away, and Harley asks her if she is interested in her because she seems to have been watching her intently since yesterday. She asks Fiona to speak her mind, but she stays silent, pissing her off. Harley curses her, saying that she is too afraid of what people might think and too timid to speak her mind, which reminds her of herself before she met Joker. Just then, Sissel comes there and tells everyone that the Queen has summoned them. Fiona suddenly gets lost in the memories of her past, when she used to sneak to the city to meet her commoner friends. They climbed on the roof of a high building to see the beautiful lake and the town, and Fiona's commoner friend complained that everything was getting too expensive because of the wars, and people were not hiring him to clean their chimneys anymore. Soon, Sissel came there to take her back, and once Fiona got home, her mom scolded her. She told her that she was ashamed of her daughter for behaving like this and mingling with peasants. Not long after that, Fiona sneaked out of the palace on one rainy day and found that her friend had died because of the aftermath of the war. She is suddenly called back to her senses by Sissel, who tells her that it is time for her to attend the war council. In the council room, they see an army of hooded beastmen approaching their border, and the ministers are aghast to see this. Sissel believes that they do not have enough troops to face them, and at this rate, the beastmen army will reach the capital soon. Everyone is panicking on hearing this, but Harley disturbs the mood by asking them why they are still in cuffs when their freedom was part of the deal. The ministers begin cursing her, but the Queen silences them before telling Harley that she has a lot of guts to talk like that after destroying the very fortress her team was sent to reclaim. She then calls for Rick and asks him to give intel on the enemy commanders and their abilities. However, he first asks to learn about how the war started to get a better understanding of things. Sissel begins giving him a presentation about how the kingdom and the empire have been at war for decades, but things suddenly turned in the empire's favor a few months ago when the beastmen and the elves betrayed the kingdom. Deadshot says that it is no surprise that they betrayed the kingdom because they don't really know how to treat people properly. After a bit of bickering, Rick tells the Queen about Ratcatcher, who is behind the army of the beastmen. He explains that in their world, Rat had the ability to communicate with and control rats, and in this world, his power extends to the beastmen too. The Queen believes him and knows how to deal with this rat, and Rick has no answer. This raises suspicions in Deadshot's mind, and he asks Rick why they didn't simply detonate the bombs in Rat's neck when he went rogue. Rick says that for some unknown reason, the bombs in the previous squad's necks got defused, which is why Amanda included countdown timers in their bombs instead. Anyway, since Rick cannot give any information about how to stop Rat, the Queen decides to send him back to prison, when suddenly Harley speaks up. She remembers that in the dream this morning, Joker was telling her about the best way to hunt rats, and she happily shares it with everyone. Deadshot immediately gets what she is talking about and comes up with a plan, but that requires blocking Rat's path and bringing him out to the front lines. Rick says that they cannot do that on their own and asks the Queen to lend them some of her troops to succeed in their plans. The ministers say that it is a ridiculous request, but Fiona tries convincing her mother to listen to Rick. However, the ministers shut her down too, asking if she would take responsibility if they lost their troops. Fiona falls silent, and to bail her out, Sissel decides to intervene. But before he can say anything, Harley says that if they need troops, she knows some people who would be more than happy to fight. Soon, everyone goes to the destroyed fortress that is acting as the kingdom's front line. The forces that Harley mentioned also come there, and they are none other than the prison inmates. They are really excited to hear Harley speaking their language, and she gets on a pile of barrels to tell them that if they can fight hard and win the next battle, they will get out of prison, but if they fail, they will be sent back to stinky hell. Everyone is raring to join the fight, and they cheer for Harley. Harley is not taking anything seriously, but the other men are trying to come up with a strategy. Clayface is interested in Fiona, and he asks Cecil to tell him more about her. Cecil says that the princess is the kindest person in the kingdom, and she cares a lot about her subjects. Harley just scoffs, saying that she just looks like a self-loathing loser, inciting the commander's rage. Just then, King Shark smells enemies, and he alerts Rick about it. The soldiers and the prisoners are in their positions, but Harley and others refuse to step out to fight because it is not their job. Cecil can only curse them as he takes command of his soldiers and tells them to fear nothing. In the meantime, the Beastmen troops led by Rat arrive in front of the soldiers. He is a bit surprised to see the barriers and the ogres there, who seem to be quite aggressive. However, he just laughs, saying that this is not nearly enough to defeat him. He taps his staff to the ground and creates a huge magic field that makes the Beastmen under his control go berserk. He tells them to rush ahead and rip everyone apart, when suddenly he hears a gunshot and the field dissipates. Rat panics, wondering what just happened, but then he realizes that it must be Deadshot, who missed a shot. He thinks that it was Deadshot's golden chance to kill him, but now he has failed and even given out his location. He commands his Beastmen troops to move ahead and attack him, but they don't budge. He tries pushing them ahead while cursing them, but it is useless as well, and that is when he finally notices that Deadshot hit his mark, which was the gem on his staff. This was actually the real plan of the Suicide Squad, who had figured out that Rat was controlling the Beastmen through his staff. They put up the barriers only to lure Rat to the front lines so that he could power up the Beastmen. Now that Rat understands their plan, he panics. But the more troubling news is that the Beastmen are no longer under his control, and instead, they are angry at him. They surround him from all sides, and even as he begs them to spare him, they devour him. In the meantime, the Beastmen, who have returned to their senses, are surprised to see themselves on the battlefield. They send a messenger to Cecil and surrender, and the Suicide Squad heads out of the battlefield. They tell the Knight Commander that they completed their mission, so they don't need to stay here anymore. Everyone is surprised that they won so easily, and Fiona turns back to tell her mom that it paid off to trust the Otherworlders, but the Queen is frozen stiff. The Suicide Squad runs all the way to the location of the gate, but to their dismay, the gate is situated high above a lake, and they have no way of reaching it. Deadshot grows impatient and asks King Shark to let him climb on his back, but he refuses. Suddenly, the bombs planted in their necks begin to glow, sending everyone into an even deeper state of panic. Clayface calmly asks him what they are supposed to do now, and Rick says that they can only pray that the signal to reset the timer is reaching all the way here from the gate. Deadshot begins pulling his hair in frustration, but Peacemaker tells him to calm down because the moment of truth is coming. He declares that there are only a few seconds left till the countdown reaches 0, and if their heads are still attached to their bodies after that, it would mean that the signal is reaching here. Everyone grows tense as Peacemaker reaches 0, but then the bombs on their necks glow green and nothing happens. Everyone is relieved that the timer has been reset and Harley is back to her regular chill attitude. However, Rick tells everyone that they should understand that the only reason they were not killed by Amanda is because she still thinks that they have some use. He tells them that they will have to get the reset signal every 72 hours, and for that, it is crucial that they work on their mission to establish a research base here. He says that their first priority should be to get on the good side of the kingdom and help them win the war, and everyone agrees with him. The Suicide Squad joins forces with the kingdom's army and push back the invading army of the Empire. They fight on various battlefields and manage to enter and claim the territory stolen by the Empire and then some more. On one battlefield surrounded by giant mushrooms, Deadshot is having the time of his life blowing away the pig beastmen, when suddenly, King Shark throws one pigman at him. Deadshot tries to bring it down, but he realizes that he has run out of ammo. The pig beastman lands right next to him, and then King Shark runs past him, calling him a scaredy cat. Deadshot is frustrated by this, and then suddenly, the pig gets up to fight him. He just knocks him out with the butt of his rifle and then begins screaming out his frustration. Soon after that, an emergency meeting is called to address the problem. Deadshot is fidgety because he has no more bullets, but Harley doesn't hesitate wasting bullets to make a heart on a rock. Cecil is rather relieved that Deadshot can no longer use his frightening weapons, and he takes offense at that. He begins cursing the Knight Commander, but then Rick intervenes and stops him. Finally, Clayface gets to the point and says that since Harley and Peacekeeper also use guns, the lack of ammo will affect their group quite seriously. Harley has no issue with that, and she claims that she will be fine with a frying pan as her weapon too. Clayface calls their group the Council of Idiots and says that there seems to be no hope of solving the problem, but then Rick comes up with an idea. He says that the ship that he and his advance team took to arrive here did not crash. He is sure that they will have their supplies and weapons intact there, and that is excellent news for Deadshot. However, the problem is that their ship landed on a mountain near the fortress, and they need to get back there to retrieve the supplies. Deadshot doesn't care about how long it will take to get to the fortress, and he begins marching ahead. They reach the fortress by nightfall, and the prisoners turned soldiers are surprised to see them. Harley says that she is really starved, and the pig soldier tells her that she came just in time because they are going to throw a dinner party now. The powerful beastmen cook food in a gigantic pan while everyone eats and drinks. As they drink with the former prisoners, Harley and Deadshot ask what is the occasion for the party. The pig soldiers say that the high-ranking army commanders gave them some alcohol for their contribution in the battle, and throwing a party was a very obvious thing to do after that. The next day, the Suicide Squad takes its leave, and Harley borrows a frying pan as her weapon. After that, they head towards the mountain where Rick's ship landed, but it is a long and tiring hike. Once they reach the location of the ship, they are left stunned to see that a dragon is using it as material for his nest. Their noisy fight attracts the attention of the dragon, and it comes down from its nest to deal with the intruders. Everyone panics and runs away, but the dragon gives chase, and Deadshot hides in a crevice in the rocks. The dragon finds him there and then tries chomping him along with the rocks, but Deadshot somehow jumps out in time and survives. He keeps running away from the dragon, whose attention suddenly goes to Harley. He begins chasing her next, and she runs away while dodging its fireballs. The only one it seems to be interested in is King Shark, and the dragon grabs him in its jaws and begins flying towards its nest. Rick panics because they need to save him, and Deadshot looks at the only bullet left in his hand. Clayface uses his power and creates a giant wall to stop the dragon from going to its nest. Using this chance, Deadshot takes aim at the dragon's eye while it is busy trying to swallow King Shark. However, the dragon blinks at the last moment, deflecting Deadshot's bullet, and then it angrily spits out King Shark covered in flames. Suddenly, the giant wall that Clayface created earlier starts to crumble, and then the dragon comes to the ground to defeat the intruders again. Suddenly, Harley gets an idea, and she rushes towards the dragon. The dragon shoots a fireball at her, and she uses the same magic trick that the pigmen were using last night and enlarges the size of the frying pan. Harley is delighted by her victory, and doesn't notice the dragon trying to whip her with its tail. Luckily, Deadshot saves her, but then Harley jumps off from his back because she plans to go to the helicopter now. Outside, Deadshot is keeping the dragon distracted somehow, when suddenly, Harley calls to him and tosses the rocket launcher towards him. He rushes towards the rocket launcher, while Peacemaker stands on the dragon's nest to taunt it. The dragon begins moving towards him, but Clayface catches its tail. Using this chance, Deadshot fires the rocket launcher at the dragon's neck, dealing it critical damage. After that, they go to the helicopter where Deadshot begins stocking up the ammo, while Peacemaker reveals that he used the dragon's egg to taunt it earlier. He plans to make an omelet with it now and asks Harley for the frying pan, but she is really angry about his cruelty. She snatches the egg from his hand and begins cuddling it, when suddenly, the egg hatches and a baby dragon comes out. The baby dragon takes Harley for its mom, and she decides to name him Arthur. Meanwhile, Rick sneaks away and contacts Amanda, telling her that he is alive and working with the Suicide Squad. He informs her that the advance team with him has joined the enemy, and Amanda gives him the command to eliminate them without any hesitation. In the meantime, Peacemaker tries to start the helicopter, but it is not in any condition to fly. They begin heading back on foot while carrying the supplies with them, when suddenly, Harley smells something burning. Rick panics as he hears this, and he runs ahead to the edge of the mountain to see that the fortress where the prisoners were stationed has been reduced to ashes by 2 members of his advance team. If you liked this video, make sure to subscribe, and check out this brand new anime about a weak salaryman who transforms to become the strongest adventurer in the world.